Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to introduce you to RxMP Therapeutics, where we're developing therapeutics at the bleeding edge. We're developing one of the first procoagulants since the early 2000s in an attempt to stop excessive bleeding and hemorrhage. Our forward-looking statement disclaimers. So RxMP Therapeutics is developing a first-in-class therapy to treat excessive bleeding and hemorrhage. We believe we have an attractive risk-reward profile with multi-billion-dollar market opportunities. We've got significant interest from the U.S. Department of Defense in our initial product. It's a small investment to clinical milestones and possibly approval in an orphan indication. We have experienced management advisors. We've raised close to $7 million to date. We're initiating a $1.5 million raise to complete our IND in the first half of 2024. This is a platform technology. What you're looking at in the picture to the right are red cell derived membrane particles. We make these particles from red cells, from pack cells, human pack cells. They go through a controlled destruction to make a distinctive microparticle that can be freeze-dried or lyophilized down. And these are stable for prolonged periods of time, can be reconstituted with sterile water and injected into a bleeding patient. The worldwide patents have issued and been licensed to RxMP. We've gotten new composition of matter patents recently allowed that allows us to get to 2037, a lot of runway. RMP-402 here is our lead product with solid preclinical data and a clear path to clinical results. We're looking at value inflection points with the IND in 2024, clinical proof of principle early in 2026, and even a potential NDA under the Orphan Drug Act in 2027. So there are distinctive properties of these red cell membrane particles. They amplify what's called tissue factor independent blood coagulation, or the intrinsic pathway. So they do not cause clotting, they accelerate the clotting process. That's why we're not seeing any off-target activity in brain, cardiac tissue, lung, etc. It only affects the location of bleeding. The product is given IV, it goes to the site, sticks like Velcro, and recruits coagulation factors and platelets to accelerate the whole process. It also enhances that the platelet aggregation, of the platelets coming together and sticking hard together. There's antifibrinolytic activity, meaning that once the clot forms, it doesn't dissolve as quickly in the acute setting, so it gives a stronger clot. We see a broad spectrum of applications here, and again, we see no off-target thrombosis or clotting in any other organs. So clinical bleeding is still a much bigger problem than is commonly perceived. We've got 3.5 million people, US, Europe, and Japan, that are treated annually for bleeding. Trauma and crush injury, 30 to 40% are still due to hemorrhage. Hemorrhagic stroke, 40% of people are bleeding when they reach the emergency room and would be eligible for a product like this to stop their bleeding. We still see significant bleeding in the surgical suites in gynecologic and obstetric hemorrhage, as well as major gastrointestinal bleeding. So the market is large. Initially, it's over a $5 billion opportunity that may go higher. The entry market alone exceeds $1.5 billion. Our first clinical indication that we're working toward is to demonstrate a reduction in bleeding in the spinal fusion surgical market, which we believe is about a $900 million market for us in the three major markets. When individuals get 3 or more vertebrae fused, they tend to lose over 20% of their blood volume on the table. This is common. And this has been demonstrated in publications and in research that if you lose over 2 liters of your blood, you will have increased morbidity and cost, more ICU time, et cetera, in the hospital. So we already have a medical economic study that supports what we're doing. Brain hemorrhage is another secondary market, about 600 million. It's an orphan indication with high unmet need, and we'll be opportunistic about that opportunity as we go forward. The expansion markets are over 4.2 billion as we calculate them now, and current therapies are inadequate. Competition is very limited. Recombinant factor 7A, which has very severe off-target clotting, has made annually about $1.5 billion after it had been approved for an orphan indication such as hemophilia, but its off-label use is tremendous, showing the magnitude of the problem, that they would take a drug that has severe adverse side effects associated with it to try to stem the bleeding in individuals such as trauma victims. How do we make this? Well, we make it through high pressure extrusion. This is a small version of machines that are completely scalable to industrial scale. We do not make these machines. They are cell disruptors. They're used to break bacteria and break apart bacteria and yeast to harvest proteins. We've sterilized the machine. We've closed it up. We use them with high pressure, push blood cells through pinholes, slam them against metal plates, and you get a very uniform microparticle that has these unique properties of being able to catalyze the clot. We are GMP ready. We are in the throes of providing a manufacturing protocol to the FDA because they requested at our last meeting right at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, that we now do all our studies in animals, et cetera, with the GMP lot that's going to go into humans. But they wanted to sign off on that, and we are just, after some additional manufacturing research, we're prepared to submit that to the FDA shortly. It's a lyophilized, as I've said, freeze-dried product. We've seen long-term stability, refrigerated and frozen for over 18 months now. Packed cells that are used for transfusion only have a 42-day half-life. Our plans have been vetted with the FDA on the preclinical tox, the manufacturing, and the initial clinical program and beyond. How do we manufacture? We take pooled human red blood cells ready for transfusion, already cleared, by the Red Cross and others for transfusion in terms of viruses, bacteria, et cetera. We dilute them down, take them through a controlled disruption, concentrate them down, and go through multiple cycles until we get the microparticle that we want. It's lyophilized down. You've seen the final product. The product is administered IV. It goes directly to the site of bleeding. There, as I mentioned before, and I can't emphasize enough, there is no off-target activity in any of the animal tox studies we've done to date, or any of the animal efficacy studies we've done to date. It goes directly to the site, enhances and stabilizes blood, platelets, and enhances coagulation factor activity. In fact, you can drop your coagulation factors down to 15 to 20% of normal and still get full coagulation activity. It corrects bleeding with platelet disorders, whether it be drug or genetic diseases, and coagulation disorders, whether it be drugs or genetic diseases or other acquired diseases. Just an example of some of the data. This is one of our more stringent models. Is a liver laceration model in the rat. You do these controlled cuts in the liver. These animals try to exsanguinate and die, as you see in the black curve. When you give our product after the bleeding is stopped, it reduces overall blood loss by 30 to 40%. These animals survive. There's been a long history of successful blood and plasma products of human origin. The market sizes are currently in the $36 billion range, expected to go to about 90 billion by 2030. Takeda in 2023 announced that it was taking a strong position in plasma-derived products. Grifols' annual revenue exceeds $6 billion. We have talked to some of the larger players in this list, but you can see the kinds of blood and plasma-derived products, and excluding all the recombinants, that have made companies money. These are our potential future acquirers or partners. We have talked to all of them on the very left side of this, and are expanding our conversations, but we have significant strategic interest from a number of these players that are waiting for, as a minimum, phase 1 data. Some have actually said that we become an acquisition target potentially after phase 1. We have an experienced management team. I led Cell Pathways and took it public and got it acquired by OSI Pharmaceuticals in a bidding war with other larger multinationals. Wenxi Ji is one of the co-founders and expert in microparticles. Theo Gana will be coming on as our Senior VP of Clinical Development and Regulatory. He's currently a consultant, but as we get closer to the IND and raise that round, we will be bringing him on full time. Sue Van is a trustee of the Walsh H. Coulter Foundation and is one of our directors. Lars Trost, well-known toxicologist. Aisha Khan, manufacturing consultant on the GMP facility down affiliated with the University of Miami. We have a full team here to bring this product forward. We have also experienced advisors. Bob Baltera just joined us as a director. He took Amira Pharmaceuticals public after a illustrious career at Amgen, got it acquired, has done this on a number of occasions, including with Imago, just recently as a board member, getting acquired by Merck for $1.35 billion. Mike Davis is our governmental defense advisor. Mike used to run the combat casualty care research program, a $1.5 billion budgeted program by the Department of Defense and the federal government to look for ways to mitigate what the military is saying are the 3 major problems on the battlefield: hemorrhage, hemorrhage, and hemorrhage. He's been instrumental in the getting Department of Defense attention, and in August took us to meetings where we met all the decision makers, including the individual that took his position as the head of the Combat Casualty Research Program. Mike Fair, Joy Cavagnero, well-known in the industry operationally. Our scientific advisors cover everything from anesthesia to neurosurgery to neurology to trauma and trauma critical care, and particularly Sam Schulman, who is a world's expert in thrombosis. So why invest in RxMP? We have potential near-term exits with an end of phase 1 value inflection point in 2025, proof of concept clinical data as early as 2026 to flip over that card and either go public or be acquired by one of the larger players. We have an attractive risk reward profile, large markets, even larger indications than the ones we're starting in, clear interest from the Department of Defense, a potential orphan indication that could get us there faster, clear clinical endpoints in the amount of blood loss during surgery with or without the product, and the number of blood units that would be used as replacement. Very quantifiable. We're capital efficient. We can get through the phase 1 program from today for less than $5 million and to proof of concept in less than $20 million. We've got worldwide patent coverage, and we've got a team that can make this happen. So join us in changing how blood is used in this country and in the world. Thank you.